Hey, welcome back. Today what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at how we need to design our network. We're going to jump into setting up the Active Directory right away, but I think we need to just make a short video here showing how we're going to design, set up so that everything rolls forward. What we're going to do is we're going to take you over to the computer, and I'm just going to lay out, now that we've got Proxmox set up, how we're going to stack everything and how it's all going to connect together, because the Active Directory needs to be in place, but then Cockpit needs to be in place, then GLPI needs to be in place in order to set up the monitoring and to keep track of all the changes that we're putting in. So I want to jump over to the computer here next and then just give you a what's up on how we're going to set up this network. Then in the next video, we're going to come back and we're going to jump into setting up the Active Directory structure. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to basically lay out the design of what we want our network to be. So we've got color number 1 selected. We're going to start here with brush, and we're just going to go here, and that's Proxmox. Prox. Then over here we have it replicating to Proxmox backup. So everything that's on Proxmox is going to be backed up over to Proxmox backup. So the next thing down that we're going to do is we need to install Active Directory in Proxmox. So what we're going to do is we're going to install, let's go with green, I think it's this color green. So we're going to come down here, and the first VM is going to be Clear OS. Pardon my slowness of writing because it's just slow writing. Sorry. So that is going to be our Active Directory. So that is going to be sitting in VM1, or it's a VM, we'll call it VM1, it's going to be called Active Directory probably. So that'll be the first thing that we install. And the reason for that is because the next thing we're going to install is another VM, but it'll be a Fedora, and it's going to be Cockpit. And I'm going to write the whole word because if I just abbreviate it, yeah, that doesn't look good. So that is going to be another VM running separately, and the reason we're putting the AD on first for the Clear OS is so that we can set Cockpit up in order to use AD authentication in order to log into Cockpit. Then we're also going to use it for every subsequent. So we come down here, put another VM on, and this VM will be our file and print share. File/print. Now that also is going to use AD authorization in order to print and for file access. So it all ties back into the Active Directory. Then we're going to put another one on. In this VM, we'll be running GLPI. And what that is asset management tracking and help desk ticket system. So the reason that that one is going on is also so that it can be Active Directory tied in. Then we're going to put another one on. Another one, this one will be Dolomir. That's a D, sorry. Dolomir. And that's an ERP /C This will be a mail system. And it will most likely be ClearOS again. So that'll be actually, it's a green one going back up. So you can see that again, authorization with the AD and using the AD accounts as the email accounts. So basically everything needs to tie into this Active Directory. Everything sits as a VM layer in Proxmox. Proxmox stands alone outside of the Active Directory. Now it could be tied into the Active Directory, but the problem with that is the Active Directory isn't sitting outside. It's sitting inside. So as long as it's sitting inside, if something goes wrong with Proxmox, or if something goes wrong with the AD server, you can no longer then access Proxmox using your AD credentials because it crapped out and failed, so now you can't get into Prox. Nasty cycle. So that's why Proxmox is going to have standalone user access accounts, and then everything else is going to sit inside of Proxmox, and it is all going to be tied together. The only thing that's not going to be sitting inside of Proxmox is going to be our FOG server. F-O-G. FOG. And what it is it's basically a server that allows me to push out distributions over Pixie Boot to workstations, client laptops, whatever. It's basically an open source version of SCCM really stripped down, or Microsoft, what's it called, Microsoft Transfer. Oh, it's been so long since I've used it. But it basically just for pushing images over to computers if you don't want to invest in SCCM. SCCM is a very expensive product, has very expensive licensing. So there are Microsoft Transport Service, that's what I was looking for. Microsoft Transport Service. So you can use many different technologies, but FOG is, there's a couple of options, open source. FOG is a really good one. They put a lot of work into it and works quite well. It takes a little bit to prepare your images, but we're basically going to be using that. So with that being said, we can now move forward into the next video, which we're setting up the AD. I just wanted to put some chicken scratch on this whiteboard here so you knew why we were doing things in steps and why they were being set up as VMs on the Proxmox layer, and the order we're doing them in. And so the Active Directory has to be the first one, because the Active Directory is the one that everyone else needs to communicate with in order to function properly. And then I have Cockpit as the second one, because Cockpit is going to register all these other servers, and they're going to get their updates pushed down through Cockpit. And the order of the other servers coming on after that really doesn't matter, although I probably should be doing GLPI after Cockpit so that I can actually start documenting. At this point, I'm simply documenting using a spreadsheet, keeping track of the IP numbers and where I put them. However, that will all be transposed into GLPI for proper tracking once I get that server up and running. So it's kind of a little bit of the chicken before the egg, but in this case you have to have that first egg to hatch the chicken, and that will be the Proxmox. Then the first chicken comes along, and that is the Active Directory server. From there on out, whatever order you put them in, it's just simply a matter of tying them in all together. So I know that might be a little confusing, and it's not the greatest way of explaining the hierarchy and directory. We will get in a little better into that once we do have GLPI set up, and I can show you how the organization works that way with a little better tools than Microsoft Paint. So on that note, I'm going to end this video, and we'll get back to you in the next one.